Ladies and gentlemen, friends, listeners, makers of sound, let's start with a strange and dangerous question. Not how to make music, not how to promote it, not how to go viral, get streams, or land a playlist, but let us ask the question that used to come first. What is music actually for? Not in 1826, not in 1926, not even in 2006, but now, here, in 2026. Because if we don't answer that honestly, everything else we do with music becomes confused, frantic, and strangely hollow. For most of human history, music wasn't something that you consumed. It was something that you were inside of. Before stages, before recordings, before charts, music lived in rituals. It lived in worships. It lived in work songs, in mourning, in celebration. It marked births, wars, seasons, love, death. It was not an optional entertainment. It was all about identity. A tribe's rhythm, for example, told you who the tribe were. A culture's scales told you how they felt the world around them. A people's song carried memory when nothing else could. Music was not a product, it was a language of being a person. As societies grew, music evolved with them. We built different instruments, we wrote musical notation, we trained composers. Suddenly, music was not just instinct, but rather architecture. Symphonies, chorales, operas, folk traditions passed down like sacred fire. But still, no one asked, will this sell? Instead, they asked, does this honor God? Does this tell our story? Does this move our hearts? Does this make sense of suffering? Even when musicians were paid, the money supported the mission. The meaning came first. Recording changed everything. For the first time in history, music could be separated from the moment. A song no longer required a singer to be with us in the room. A performance no longer vanished into memory. And this was miraculous. But it also was the beginning of something strange. Music became repeatable, then ownable, then scalable, then eventually mass produced. What was once an exchange between people slowly became more like a unit, a track, a number, a stream, a commodity. Here's the tragedy of the modern era. We flipped the order. Music used to be first about identity, that turned into expression, and finally into an artifact. Now, most often, it's a product which builds branding and content. We no longer ask, what does this mean? But we ask, what performs? What might hook the listener in the first 5 or 7 seconds? What fits the algorithm? What's trending this month? And suddenly, musicians stopped being storytellers and started becoming suppliers, factories of feeling. Now, mass production works beautifully for phones. It doesn't work so well for souls. When music becomes infinite, attention becomes scarce. When songs are endless, meaning becomes disposable. When everything is available at your feet, then nothing is going to feel precious. We scroll past masterpieces the same way that we scroll past memes. And this is not because the music is bad, which it might be, but rather because the system trained us not to linger, not to actually feel, not to sit inside sound long enough for it to change us. A song is not a post. It is more like a time capsule. It holds who you were on the moment that you heard or composed it, what you felt when you heard it, what the world sounded like when you were alive. Every great piece of music is a fossil of human emotion. When you hear, for example, a blues record from the 1930s, you're hearing pain preserved. When you hear a folk song from wartime, you're hearing survival. When you hear a love ballad from decades ago, you're hearing someone's heart echo forward in time. Songs are not disposable. They are human documents. They're documents of the people who wrote them and listened to them. When music becomes another hustle, artists burn out faster, trends age in weeks, listeners feel numb, and creativity becomes anxiety. And worst of all, people start tying their worth to numbers. Streams mean value, followers mean talent, and virality means success, which leads to a dangerous belief. If my music doesn't blow up, then perhaps it wasn't worth making. And that idea has destroyed more beautiful artists than failure ever could. Here's another truth that history keeps proving time after time. Most of the greatest musicians who ever lived did not get rich, did not go viral, and did not make it. They made meaning, and meaning lasted longer than fame. Music is not an investment portfolio. It is not a vending machine. You do not put in emotion and automatically receive applause, money, or recognition. Sometimes all you get is silence, and that doesn't make the music worthless. It just makes it honest. So create music because you must, not because you expect it to rescue you financially, not because you want it to validate you, not because you hope it will somehow magically fix your life. That pressure poisons creativity. Instead, make music because you have something to say. Make music because you feel something deeply, because you want to connect with other people, because you want to explore sound and meaning, and music always serves its own purposes. If it doesn't reach the audience you want, the music still did its job. Trends are loud, sincerity is quiet. Trends feel like shortcuts. Honesty feels slow. But trends expire. Sincerity ages like wine. When you shape your art to sell, you slowly erase yourself. You become a reflection of what's popular, not of what is true at the time for you. And even if you win that game, one day you wake up surrounded by success that doesn't feel like it's yours. Because you built it pretending to be somebody else. Have a listen at what lasts across generations. It's not the perfectly polished trend. It's the raw voice, the honest lyric, the strange sound that didn't fit the market, but maybe created a new market. The song that dared to be personal. People do not fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with humanity, feelings, experiences, cracks, emotions, the truth. That is what survives. In 2026, music's job is not to compete with the algorithms. It's to reconnect us with ourselves. Music is for feeling again in a numb world. It's about slowing down in a fast world. It's about remembering that we're people, we're humans, in a digital age, but still humans, creating meaning in chaos and sharing emotions when words fail. It's for community, it's for memory, it's for expression, it's for identity. Just like it always was. And for composers, producers, artists, your job is not to flood the internet. Your job is to make something real, something that you'd still be proud of even if no one heard it, something that is honest, alive, and expresses you, because music that comes from a true place always finds its people eventually. Maybe it's not millions, but it will be the right ones, the right audience. And that kind of connection is worth more than any chart position. When we stop treating songs like disposable content, when we stop measuring art like stocks, when we stop chasing attention and start chasing meaning instead, then music becomes and will become powerful again. Listeners feel again. Creators breathe again. The pressure lifts. The joy returns. The magic is coming back. Music was never meant to be a machine. It was meant to be a mirror, a bridge, maybe a heartbeat. Music is a record of what it feels like to be alive in a specific moment in history. And here's another truth that no algorithm will ever tell you. Once you understand what music is now, the idea of success changes completely. Remember to hit like button, subscribe, and leave your comments and your thoughts. I'd love to hear them and keep this conversation going. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.